What is up, SSM? I'm Joshua.
And I'm Emma.
And we are so stoked that you guys are hanging out with us this weekend online.
We know there's all sorts of things you could be doing aside from logging into church this weekend.
Like playing soccer or hopping on Fortnite, go on PS5, checking Instagram.
Okay, we get it. There's lots of things you could be doing other than making it to church, but we're so grateful you made it here and this is a priority to you. This is a great week to join us online because we are wrapping up our series, We Are SSM. We've been talking all about what it means to be part of student ministries here at Saddleback.
Yeah, and we've talked all about how SSM is a place to belong, how we love Jesus, and that we live differently. This week, as we wrap up, Kurt has one last thing to let us know about SSM.
It's gonna be a great service. We're so excited to jump in, but first, let's worship together.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone, and I'm no longer a slave to fear. No, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. No, I am a child of God. And from my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Your love has called my name. I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through our veins. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. No, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. Yes, I am. 'Cause I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. Oh, yes, I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. You drowned my fears in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. You split the sea. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. You drowned my fears in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child. Yeah, sing it out. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. You drowned my fears in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. Yes, I am a child of God. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God.
Well, hey there, great to see you again this week. This week, we are wrapping up our series called We Are SSM. It's been a 4-week series, and if for some reason you've missed any of the weeks, you can go to our YouTube channel and you can catch up by watching basically this exact video from the previous weeks. During this series, we're taking a look at what SM wants to be known for, what we as people who are part of the SSM family want to be known for. I'm gonna show you a few logos from famous brands or famous companies. My hunch is you're gonna recognize these right away. When you see the logo, I want you to ask yourself, what are they about? Not what company it is, because again, you're gonna recognize it right away, but what are they as a company about? What are they known for? So here's the first one I want to show you. What's this? Yeah, it's Mercedes-Benz, right? And what are they about? What are they known for? What comes to mind? Well, what comes to my mind is they're known for really nice cars and luxury. What about this one? PlayStation, right? Now, some of you right now, you're like, I hate PlayStation. Why isn't an Xbox logo? Whatever, it's PlayStation logo. When you see the PlayStation logo, what are they about? Well, they're about gaming, right? I mean, everybody knows they are about gaming. How about this one? There it is, Chick-fil-A. What are they about? Well, they're about awesome Christian chicken, right? I mean, they are about serving really, really good chicken sandwiches and sweet tea. What's this last one? Yeah, it's SSM. You recognize that right away. What is SSM about? I'll give you a hint. It's what we've been talking about the past few weeks. Our brand, what we're about, is that we love Jesus, we live differently, and we lead the way. That's us. That's what we're about. And our hope is that when somebody sees that logo, when they see it on the t-shirt, or when they walk into your youth room and they see it on the wall, or wherever they come across it, they would see our brand and immediately think about these things as quickly, these things being that we love Jesus, we live differently, and we lead the way, that they would think about those things as quickly as they think about chicken when they see the Chick-fil-A brand, or gaming when they see PlayStation. That's what we want this place to be about. Love Jesus, live differently, and lead the way. That's our brand. That's our reputation. So what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks is breaking each one of these phrases down and talking about what they mean. We've talked about loving Jesus, and last week we talked about living differently, and today we're going to talk about what it means to lead the way. And the order of these things is really important because these three things actually flow into each other. They build on each other. I want you to take a look at the top of your outline. And now if you're watching this on YouTube and you don't have an outline, just imagine this in your head. And you're gonna see these three phrases at the top. Love Jesus, live differently, and live and lead the way. When we love Jesus, which looks like trusting him with your life, obeying what he says, and following where he leads, when you do that, our love for him causes us to start living differently. It's like the beginning of a cycle. Here's what I want you to do. Either on your outline or in your mind, I want you to draw an arrow from love Jesus to live differently. Now, when we start living differently, which we talked about last week, we start choosing Jesus's way over the world's way. And we start treating others how we want them to treat us. And when we do that, people, they'll start to take notice. And when they notice that we're living differently, that allows us to begin leading the way. So I want you to, in your mind or on your outline, draw another arrow from live differently to lead the way. So now, either at the top of your outline or in your mind, you've got sort of like this cycle of love Jesus, live different, lead the way. And when we do that, loving Jesus helps us live differently. Living differently helps us lead the way. It's like this cycle. But what does that mean? What does it mean to lead the way? What are we leading the way to? Any guesses? I'll give you a hint. It starts with J and ends with Isus. Starts with J and ends with Isus. Jesus is who we want to lead the way to. In fact, Jesus himself gives us this assignment in Matthew 28, verses 19 through 20. Jesus says this, "Therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you, and be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." Jesus wants all of his followers to spread out across the whole world and lead the way for people to know and love him. So, back at the top of your outline, I want you to draw a final arrow from lead the way to love Jesus. From lead the way to love Jesus, and that completes the cycle. That's what we're called to do, to lead people back to Jesus. So, what does leading the way actually look like? Well, it starts with what we talked about last week. Leading the way starts by living differently. There's an order to this. Now, here's an important truth, and it's actually the first fill-in on your outline. Leading starts with living. Leading starts with living. In other words, you can't start leading the way in something before you first live that thing out for yourself. That would be sort of like me walking into a UFC gym, jumping into the octagon, and start leading a UFC class. That would be ridiculous. I don't know the first thing about any kind of martial arts, except that it looks really painful and totally terrifying. Because I've never lived a minute as a UFC fighter, everyone in the gym would laugh at me, and then they would probably put me in some kind of chokehold until I passed out. The same is true for us as Christ followers. You won't start living differently than the rest of the world until you first learn to love Jesus. And you can't lead the way back to Jesus until you first start living differently. It's a process. So, leading the way starts with living differently. But when you have been living differently for a while, over time, your life will naturally start leading the way back to Jesus. So, what does this part look like? Well, Jesus uses the picture of light, to show what leading the way looks like in Matthew 5 during the Sermon on the Mount. It's one of his most famous sections of teaching, one of his most famous sermons, the Sermon on the Mount, and he says this to us and to all of his followers. Check this out. This is what he says. "You are the light of the world. You're like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father." That's in Matthew 5, verses 14 through 16. You are the light of the world. Now, if you're a follower of Jesus, that's what he calls you. That's what he calls me. He calls us the light of the world. We're like a bright city on a hill lit up at nighttime that everyone can see for miles around. You're a lamp that lights up an entire room when it's turned on. And when you let your light shine, verse 16 says that everyone around you will see it, and then they'll praise your heavenly Father. In other words, they will learn to know and love Jesus because you've led the way for them, because you've been a light. But why does he use this picture of light to talk about leading the way? Well, let's talk about what light does, and that might give us some insight. So what does light do? You might want to write this down if you're taking notes. First, light illuminates. Light illuminates. Before I came to Saddleback, I was a junior high pastor at another church. And at that church, instead of going to a traditional camp for summer camp, we would actually go down to San Onofre State Park. Some of you know where that is. And we would go down there for a week of camping at the beach. And because San Onofre is really close to the freeway, there were several massive concrete drainage tunnels that ran from the campsite of the freeway all the way under the freeway and into Camp Pendleton. That's the Marine base on the other side of the freeway. So imagine this, we would be, San Onofre is up on a bluff, right? And there's these big concrete tunnels running from our side of the freeway all the way under the freeway to the other side to let rain and stuff flow through. And at our camp, we had a really fun tradition. Late at night, on the last night of camp, we would take anybody who wanted to go with us on a midnight hike through the tunnel. Now, the only rule was nobody except the leaders were allowed to take flashlights. And the leaders would only turn them on a few times, just every now and then, so people could see what was coming up. It was so awesome, totally scary, and actually a little bit dangerous because there were rocks in the tunnel. There were weird elevation changes with these concrete ramps that you had to climb up and then slide back down, all kinds of stuff. Now, it was pitch black in there, and without the ability to turn on the light to illuminate the tunnel every now and then, people could have easily gotten hurt, maybe even lost. The flashlight illuminated all of the potentially dangerous things in the tunnel. We live in a world that can kind of feel like a dark, even dangerous tunnel a lot of the time. Things like sin and corruption and violence and people taking advantage of each other. These things, it's like they cast this dark shadow across our world. A lot of teenagers feel like they're trying to figure life out all on their own in the dark, not knowing what to do. And that's where we come in as Christians. Jesus says that we are supposed to be the light that shines in the darkness, that we illuminate the world around us by the way we live. We shine a light on the dangers of all the bad stuff in our world, so some people, all the bad stuff that some people just can't see. Just like my story about leading people with light in the tunnel, Jesus wants you and I did this, that's my flashlight. If you were wondering, what's he doing? That's my flashlight, turning it on. Jesus wants you and I to be people who light up the dark places in our world so that people living in those dark places will come to know and love him. Jesus calls us the light of the world, and light brightens things up. Light illuminates. Next, not only does light illuminate, but light attracts. Have you ever had a moth in your house at night when it's dark outside? If so, you probably already know the easiest way to get rid of it, right? All you do is turn off every other light in your house, make your house pitch black, open the front door and turn on your porch light. Moths don't like the dark, and they will instantly be attracted to your porch light out of your house. People are actually kind of the same. If we were all in a big, dark room and somebody lit a candle, the first thing we would all do is look at the light from the candle. The second thing we'd all do is wonder, where in the heck did that person find a candle? When you and I, as Jesus followers, when we live differently than the rest of the world around us, we attract attention. It's not because we're doing or because we are anything special. We're not special. We're no specialer than anybody else. But they're attracted to us because there's something different about us, something they can't quite put their finger on. Maybe you've heard that before. Maybe somebody has said to you, or maybe you've thought it about somebody else. There's just something different, but I can't quite figure it out. That something different is us living for Jesus instead of living for ourselves. That stands out in our world because most people simply don't live that way, but they're attracted to it. Jesus calls us the light of the world, and light attracts. So, light illuminates, light attracts, and finally, light reveals the way. When we would take junior hires through the tunnel at our beach camp, we took our lights with us so we could illuminate the darkness and keep people safe. But we took the flashlights for another reason too, because we wanted to reveal the way to get to the tunnel to begin with. You see, the tunnel was actually hidden down the bluff. San Onofre Camp is like up on this bluff, this big steep hillside, and the tunnel was actually kind of hidden halfway down the bluff under a whole bunch of shrubs. We would never be able to find the entry to the tunnel in the dark if it weren't for the flashlights. The light from the flashlights lit up the path so we knew which way to go on our way to the tunnel. Jesus says that we are the light of the world. So as Christians, how we live our lives can be like a light revealing the way to other people. But what is the way? Well, maybe a better question is, who is the way? The answer is Jesus. Jesus is the way. And he says it about himself in John 14:6. Jesus says this, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. Jesus is the way. If you're a Christian, then a huge part of the reason you're on this earth in the first place is to lead people to the way, to Jesus. For us Christians, one day we're going to be in heaven and we get to spend forever there with God. Now, I don't know about you, but there are a whole lot of people I want to see in heaven with me. Family members, friends, neighbors. And I know that Jesus wants to use me to lead the way for them so that they can learn to know and love Jesus too. But remember, before you can lead, you have to live it. You're the light of the world. Your light can illuminate the dark places in the world. It can attract the people around you, and it can reveal the way to Jesus. Here's the deal. You don't have to be a Bible scholar to lead the way. You don't have to be perfect to lead the way. You don't have to have all the answers and have everything about God, Jesus, and the Bible all figured out to lead the way. You just have to be you. Jesus says that if you are one of his followers, you are the light of the world. So to lead the way, just be the very best version of yourself that you can be. God created you, and he wants to use you to lighten and brighten up your world. He wants to use you to lead the way for others to know about him. And the truth that we need to recognize is that the source of our light is not ourselves. It's not how awesome we are, right? We're the light of the world, not because we're awesome. I'm not the source of my light, and neither are you. Jesus is the light source. When we shine like light in our world, it's because Jesus is shining his light through us. So, who is SSM? Well, SSM is a place where everybody belongs. And it's a place where we love Jesus, we live differently, and we lead the way. I want you to look at that little chart up at the top of your outline, or if you don't have the outline, just picture this in your mind. It's a cycle. We love Jesus, we live differently, and we lead the way. And the cycle continues over and over and over. It's really simple, but really, really powerful. Because we love Jesus, we live differently. And because we live differently, we can lead the way for others to love Jesus too. And the cycle just repeats over and over and over. And that brings us to the thought for the week. Here's the thought for the week. A life lived for Jesus leads the way to him. Hey, thanks for being here. Super glad you joined us. We'll see you soon.
What a great wrap on our series. It's such a big and important call for us to lead the way. With this community, you guys are equipped to do it.
You're right. It's been so fun exploring what it means to belong to SSM. We belong, we love Jesus, we live differently, and we lead the way. Whether you meet with us online or hang with us in person, you are SSM. Student ministries would not be the same without you.
We are so glad you joined us this weekend. If you need any information about what's going on in SSM, you can always check out your campus's Instagram or YouTube or the website, saddlebackstudents.com.
We love you, SSM. Have a great week.
See ya. Peace.